In this video, we're going to look at the final part of the scientific report, showing why this happens. Now, this is split into the discussion and the conclusion. Now, discussion is generally the longest part of your scientific report. And what you're doing is explaining your results and commenting on whether or not it was a good experiment and how you can make it better in the future. So firstly, you need to explain using some sort of scientific terms as best you can why you think your experiment showed the results that it did or the trend that it did. Now, this is generally a great time to include some of that background research where other people have done this experiment or explained why this phenomena occurs. Another thing that you need to do is account for any outliers in your results. So if you've got a graph and everything lines up in a beautiful line and then there's one result that's out from all the others, you need to work out why that result's out and explain why that is an outlier. You also need to both identify errors that you made as well as talk about the problems that you found with the experiment. So you might not have noticed that there was going to be a problem before when you were designing your experiment, but when you actually started doing your experiment, you decided, oh no, I would have been able to do it better in a different way. So this is where you include that. So we want to suggest ways to improve the experiment to both stop us from getting those errors as well as correcting any of those problems. You need to make some sort of comment about the accuracy, reliability, and validity of your experiment. And I'll do a separate video on this, explaining those three concepts. Now, when you do these, you need to actually separately talk about them. It's not good enough to say, my experiment was very reliable and accurate because I did a good job. Okay, so you need to actually talk individually about each one and provide information. It's also important to look at the broader context. So why is this experiment, or in particular the results that you got, useful to society? When we're looking at science, we're looking at a big body of knowledge, and the experimental report is our way to contribute to this body of knowledge. So you need to explain why your contribution is important and where these results can be used. So for example, in my experiment when I looked at sugar dissolving in water at different temperatures, maybe the broader context for that would be in the sugar making or the lolly making industry, where they need to dissolve sugar as part of their ingredients. The final part of the scientific report is the conclusion. Now, in the conclusion, we want to sum up our experiment as well as refer to our hypothesis and whether our hypothesis was correct or not. So for example, for my sugar experiment, I could say something along the lines of, in conclusion, my hypothesis was shown to be true. Sugar dissolves faster in hotter water. In this video, we've looked at the last two parts of the scientific report, being the discussion, which is a big meaty part with a whole heap of things that you have to explain, identify, and comment on, as well as the conclusion, which conversely is just one sentence referring to the hypothesis.